Welcome back to the Joseph Graham Show. Today I'm super excited to have Jenn Drummond with me. Now, I don't know much about you, but my friend Chip Hopper said, hey, you have to talk to this girl. She's done a bunch of crazy cool stuff. So, for people in my audience that maybe have not heard who you are or what you've done, give us a little bit about your background and what you do, and also the mountains. We have to talk about the mountains because I've heard
We'll,
about Mountain Summit.
we'll definitely talk about the mountains. So yes, my name is Jenn Drummond. I live in Park City, Utah. I'm a mom of seven children. Struggled with fertility issues and then had that go a whole nother direction than what I thought it was going to head. I was in finance for a long time, exited that company, got into a horrific car crash in 2018 that should have killed me and thankfully didn't. That was one of those pivotal moments in my life where I realized we do not have forever on this planet. So start doing those things that you thought you would do later. And on my bucket list of things to do before I die was climb a mountain. And somehow that got elevated into setting a world record as the first woman to climb the second highest peak on each of the seven continents.
Wow.
Yeah,
So you
crazy.
did one in Antarctica then.
I did go to Antarctica, which is a crazy environment.
Yeah, I'm just thinking because okay, so I do watch like you know how like on YouTube there's all these little crazy things and all, and I don't believe in the ice wall and all, but you've been to Antarctica, so we have proof there's Antarctica is real. I'm just joking for the people that listen to that. So when you're doing these summits, because this intrigues me, and we'll get into the other stuff, but I just want to start there.
Yeah.
What was the hardest part with it? Was it the preparation? Was it the actual event? Or because like that's like a 0.1% of people have done that.
Yeah. It's a combination of a lot of things which makes it hard, but I would say the preparation is hard because your mind is not knowing what it's going to get, right? And so then your mind makes up a whole bunch of scenarios that don't exist or aren't real, and you can get really stuck in those stories. And it, like for me, it's always easier to take action and be moving. It's harder to be planning and preparing for something that I don't know what's going to happen.
Mhm. Well, and that goes to your entrepreneurial side there too, because I know a lot of entrepreneurs do that. They like get in the planning stage and all, and they don't actually take action. Is that something that you really like have done in your business aspect as well? I see the patterns. That's why I was asking that question.
Yeah, of course. No, there's so many metaphors that go from mountaineering to business world. It's kind of bananas, to be honest. But for me, I do. I remember having this financial service company, and my concept was like, someday I'm going to have this big building and my name's going to be on the outside of it and blah, 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 blah. But what actually ended up happening for my business is we ended up doing a business that white labeled an investment platform for institutions to utilize. So there was no name to put on the corner office. Like the whole concept was we would let you keep your name to not liquidate your brand, which is pretty funny because we put all this time and energy into things that might not actually happen. And so just getting out there, getting in the trenches and learning and innovating is the way you climb a mountain. It's the way you build a business.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I love the fact that you have a true, when I say this, don't take this wrong, you have a true legitimate business you built. There's a lot of people online that call themselves a CEO, and you look and they're like, okay, you're coaching people or you're consulting. That's cool. It's not really a brick and mortar, something that you built. So I commend you for building your business and brand and even getting it white labeled because that takes a lot of time and effort there. So you had this pivotal moment because I'm just going back in my head with what you talked about. You had a
Yeah.
near-death experience with the car accident, which just made you decide, screw it, I'm going to just go after what I want in my life. And one of the most, the mountain climbing. Walk us through that. Was it like after you went through the car accident, you just had this epiphany, or have you always had like big dreams and now you're just going to attack them more because life is short, as we know?
Yeah, I think the version of me before the car crash was starting to get cracks, but the car crash broke everything open because I was chasing societal success. And
Hmm.
for some reason, I was following these unwritten rules that I felt like I subscribed to unknowingly. And I just remember thinking, man, when my kids get out of college, then I'll get back to me. But this is just the phase of life I'm in and grin and bear it and make the most of it. And then that car accident happened, and I was like, what? Like, what kind of story was I writing? That is not true. You can do anything you want and be a good mom and do all these other things. So it was a real awakening for me to allow myself to disappoint others so that I would not disappoint myself.
Ooh, I love that. And the reason I love that is because I do have that people pleasing tendency of, oh, I have to do this. I have to be the dad. I have to be the right person. I have to be the top salesperson. I have to do all that. And then I finally got to the point where what actually makes me happy? And what is even success to me? So that's my
Right.
next question for you. What is success to you? Not as, like you said, the world says it should be, but for you, Jen, what is success for you?
Yeah, I think it evolves for sure in different seasons of our lives based on what's pulling at us. Um, but for me, it's very much having happy, healthy children that are willing to put themselves out there and fail. And so I'm like very conscientious of, am I putting myself out there and willing to fail so they can have an example of what that looks like, which has made mountaineering really fun because I've had to turn around on mountains before without the summit and come home with, egg on your face per se and metabolize that frustration or setback in front of them, which then I do think has helped them be willing to do things and realize, hey, it's not always point A to point B. There's some stumbling along the way, and that's really what happens in life.
But I love that because kids need to see the good and the bad. They don't,
Totally.
I mean, we
Totally.
do protect our children. Don't hear what I'm not saying. But if they see mom and dad take an active approach on building a life they love living or doing things that maybe are hard or whatever, then they might have the courage to do it. Where if they see them just not, I think they watch us more than they listen to us. I know they watch us more than they listen to us.
Yeah. No, I agree with you on that one too. And just like setting expectations that life is messy. As much as
Mhm.
we try to make it look buttoned up and perfect, the reality is it's messy, and here's what messy looks like, and here's how you navigate messy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and how do you said you have 8 kids? Did I hear you
I have
correctly?
7. Don't give me an extra.
Seven. I'm not giving you X. Sorry, seven, seven. How do you navigate that? I'm just asking in general because, like, I have three, and two of mine are out of the house now. Well, one still lives with us, but he's 20. He's self-sufficient. He's an electrician at this point. How do you navigate that with running a business with mountaineer? Like, that's a lot.
It is a lot. I think, you know, you don't know any different. So you become this default mode of like, here's my life and this is what it looks like. I did take my oldest to college this year, and it made me realize, like, oh my gosh, I have 6 more years and everybody's out of my home. And that
Hmm.
really realigned what my next 6 years look like because it just reality's in your face. And so I am climbing a mountain next spring, and I'm climbing it with 3 of my sons.
Oh,
Where had I
nice.
not just dropped off a kid at college, I might have done it solo. But I'm
Mhm.
like, no, I am training with you guys so that you have to train with me, which means we get time together. We're going to go do this pursuit together. And it might take us a few extra days. We might not summit because it's going to be pretty physically demanding on my 15-year-old. But I'd rather have the experience than
Mhm.
the success without them being a part of it.
No, I love that because, again, it's one of those things where you're building a life that makes you happy. You're doing
Yeah.
things that connect with your kids, and you understand that once they get to a certain age, they're still your kids, but you're not going to have them every morning for breakfast or running them to a sporting event. But you can come back and then look back and go, we went and we summited or we tried to summit a mountain. It wasn't the end game as much as the journey along the path. So no, I think that's great.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm
That's
super
exciting.
excited about it. It's going to be fun.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but here's the other thing that I think people are saying, well, how can she do all this? Well, you have a successful business. So I think that is the other caveat that probably helps you facilitate this is the fact that you do run your own business. So you're able to kind of control your time. But how do you time manage? Because again, you're doing all these really cool stuff. Do you have like a system or a process of what you do to keep everything going?
Yeah, I'm a fanatic about auditing my time. And because it's one thing to say you're doing something, and then it's another thing to look at your calendar and be called out on that. And I'll be honest, like I have been where I'm like, I put my kids first. Like I'm don't worry, it's family, business, then athletic pursuits. And you look at my calendar and you'll be like, baloney, girlfriend. Like that's not what your calendar says. And so because I'm willing to get raw, real, and honest about what it looks like, and then I have to shift things. And yeah, my training doesn't get to look like other people's training to climb these mountains. I mean, I'm the mom at the soccer games with a 12-inch step and a backpack full of water bottles because then I can watch the soccer game and still get training in. Is it ideal training? Absolutely not. Does it work? 100%. And so it forces you to get creative and it forces you to just be, okay, if someone looked at my calendar and I didn't defend it, what would my calendar tell you my truth is?
No, again, you're dropping bombs in this regard because of the fact that most people have great ideas, but they don't actually implement. Like in sales and business, that's how I've learned all the like the words you see behind me is because I'm very, very much structured in my day. But then, like you said, I also plan time to spend time with my family to do other things. Now, do I like calendars? No, but I know they're needed, and because they're needed, and I want to be efficient, I do that. What other words of wisdom from an entrepreneurial business standpoint, or even family, do you have that you can like add on to that? So we got time blocking, we got like being structured, but I know there's a lot more strategic things that you've had to do to be successful and still be able to do all the things you're doing because
Yeah,
mountaineering is not cheap.
mountaineering is not cheap. I
Yeah.
would definitely say I have been, and we hear this all the time, but you really have to hire people better than you in
Mhm.
areas because otherwise you're not going to be able to let the thing go. And I always know I haven't hired somebody better than me when I won't let the thing go. So, for example, LinkedIn is a very good platform for me. I get most of my deals off of LinkedIn, and I hired somebody to help me with it. I did not like it didn't save me any time. It just cost me money. And it didn't
Mhm.
save me any time because I didn't trust the person with that platform. And so then when I was willing to spend a little bit more money and I actually trusted the person, I could actually let the thing go. So
Mhm.
it's again like looking at yourself. You might say you're doing something, but maybe you're really not when you peel back the layers of the onion. So for my first business, which is this private label of investment services, like I truly have hired myself out of a job. I
Mhm.
meet with the accountant to go over the numbers. I go over big picture things, but the day to day is ran by other people. And that took time to get to that position, right? It wasn't like, hey,
Mhm.
overnight everything's handed off. It
Right.
was, hey, I'm going to hand off like the marketing, or I'm going to hand off client onboarding, or I'm going to hand off the finances. The finances were the hardest thing for me to hand off. That's
Mhm.
me. And so once I handed those things off and you start building trust and that momentum goes, that's when you become a true business owner. And then you get more time freedom because you're working on the business, not in the business.
Mhm. No, I love that. How long did it take you to get to that point? Because there's a
seven
lot of people that are
years,
still there. Seven. That's
seven
still
years.
not bad.
No, it's not bad. And I mean, I'm sure there's people that do it quicker and I'm sure there's people that have done it slower. But it kind of for me was as I added a child, I was like, I have either this kid gets my attention or this thing in my business gets my attention. And when it was that black and white, it made it really easy for me to pick my child over something. Right. And
Mhm.
so for me, or for anybody listening, like make those decisions black and white so that it's easier to stick with them. It's easier to be like, nope, this is more important. And it allows that space for things to be messy and the transition of somebody taking over and doing something different than the way you would.
Yeah. And then I want to ask this follow because I know a lot of people that listen to this are control freaks. They just are because
Yeah,
they're entrepreneurs. That's what they want
we
to do.
are. Yep.
How how did you get to the point where you could let it go? I know you say, well, I found someone better than me, but did you have like a system in place to where you gave them a little bit of something and then expanded it, or how did you learn
Yeah,
to
I'm a
release
firm
control?
believer of giving like low hanging fruit, like as testing projects. And then when they win with that project that isn't, going to kill all your runway in your business, then you start building that trust and you start letting more and more things go. So by all means, you really have to be it takes more work in the beginning. Okay. Like it definitely
Mhm.
does because you have to be like, what can I set up for them to do to demonstrate their skills that doesn't set us backwards, which means it's going to take me more time to figure that piece out. But then once you get it there, you get to let go of way much more and free that time up. So understand that it's front loaded from a time and expense standpoint, but when it works out, I mean, you can't even imagine life before.
Well, because you can go farther with the team. You're not trying to do every single thing. Now you have people that you've empowered, that you've vetted, so you know you're good. And so now you can actually expand, and then you can now go into your zone of genius instead of doing. So I'm sure there's stuff you were doing that you maybe wasn't the best thing for you to
Oh,
do, but because it was your business, you have to do it. So
right. Right.
that's what I always try to tell people. Like I know because I'm like a big sales guy. That's my thing. But I know there's people that do make the deals, make the presentations and all that better because I'm really good at talking. So I outsource that to a guy on my team. Say, hey, you do this for me. I'm gonna give you a percentage of it so that I don't have to do it. Guess what? We sell more because his presentation's better. I have a little dyslexia, so if I'm doing like a PowerPoint or something, I'm gonna miss a word. Perfect grammar, perfect everything with him. So it's just like finding those right people to connect. I think that's key.
Yeah. And like once like allow yourself some error on the front end because you might think like, hey, here's what I need. And then all of a sudden you hire that like actually that's not what I need. Like I've hired out like writing and actually that's my wheelhouse. I would have never
Mhm.
guessed that was my wheelhouse, but I'm very good at synthesizing lessons that I've experienced into business or everyday takeaways for other people. Other people are not good at that. And I thought that was something I'd be able to get rid of. That's something I'm holding on to. And I had to get rid of
Mhm.
other things. So you learn and just allow yourself that space to learn.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Like with my socials, I do all that stuff, but I have other people do with my admin because I hate admin. But
Yeah,
like the
perfect.
writing, all that, I love it, and I'll do that. Because I can just I found if you can, I can just sit down and write anyway. And for me, I love that. I just have to put the little fixed grammar, and I'm good. That's my only problem with that one. Any books that you would recommend for people? Any books that have impacted you or that you're reading right now that are standing out?
I like Unreasonable Hospitality. Have you read that one by Will
No.
Guidara? It's actually really interesting. He took Madison, I don't even remember. I don't remember details of books. I'm sorry. I'm more at like the
Okay.
concepts. But it was becoming a top 50 restaurant in the world. And so
Hmm.
he thought that they were going to be higher ranked and they were, I think, in their 30s or something their first year. And then he made that a goal to become number one. And over 5 years of like doing the thing, they actually did get to be in number one spot. And it was by being unreasonably hospitable, right? Like when
Hmm.
people came in, they wowed them. They did all these different experiences. And I think in today's world, as we're trying to compete with other things, that going above and beyond, AI is not going to be able to do that. That's
Right.
the human component of this is this person. How do I go above and beyond for them and give them an experience that they're not going to get other places? I really liked that book. And then I always come back to Seven Habits of Highly Effective
Mhm.
People.
I've
That
read that one.
sharpening the saw lesson shows up in my life continuously.
Hmm. Yeah, no, and when I love the concept of the seven habits, and I'm gonna read the book you just mentioned now because I'm just sitting here going, that is the key because everyone's freaking out about AI, and in reality, relationships and the networking and how you show up and how you make people feel is going to be the thing that will distinguish you because a robot and an AI can't do that. They can kind of mimic things, but they can't be you. So no, I
Right.
love that. That's a huge piece. Where can people find you? I have a couple more questions, but I always like to put this in the middle.
Yeah, yeah. So jendrummond.com. I'm the Jen Drummond on Instagram handles and then Jen Drummond on LinkedIn. So by all means, LinkedIn is my favorite platform. So if you want me, go there. I have other people help with the other ones.
Perfect. No, I love that. So I want to go back to the summits again because I'm a little bit of a nerd in that regard. Um, you said you did seven summits on seven continents. Which was
Yes.
the hardest one?
Oh, isn't that funny? They're hard in their own ways. The unique thing about the second summits compared to the first is if you climb the highest point on each continent, they're all hikes. When you do the second highest point on each continent, for some reason the topography changes, and some of them you ski, some of them you ice climb, some of them you hike, some of them you rock climb. So you had to learn all these different skills to be able to do the second summits. And then Guinness World Records said there's a dispute on what's a continent. So I actually had to climb 9 mountains, not seven, to cover any of those disputes, which is a whole
Oh
nother ball
my.
game. But I would say there's a mountain in Russia called Dykh-Tau. And
Hmm.
Dykh-Tau is the second highest point in Europe, second highest point in Russia, if you want to exclude Russia from Europe for geopolitical reasons. And I don't know if that mountain was so hard because of the language barrier, because they lost my luggage. So I had to climb the mountain in rental gear instead of my own gear, which
Ooh,
adds a whole nother card to it. We got caught in an electrical storm, which I thought before meant you saw, lightning bolts. Nope, you can be an electrical storm before you see lightning bolts and you can still get connected, which can give you
oh
like a
wow.
shock type feeling. And so there was just so many things on that climb that I look back, I'm like, well, I'm alive. I'm alive, so we're good.
I'm just sitting here going, the idea of going to Russia intrigues me because I'm a history nerd, and I wouldn't care if it was Asian Russian or European Russian. Don't care. I just think it would be cool to see that. But like, so you're in an electrical storm with no lightning. Talk me through that a little bit. So you just it just randomly get shocked, or like I'm kind of
Yeah, no, like
trying to
this is
figure it
crazy.
out.
Like, so you can feel like a buzz in the air. Does that make sense? Like, you can feel that
Yep,
the
yep.
energy in the air is charged. And so our guide was like, this is a problem. And so I'm like, okay. And I'm like, what should we do? And he's like, well, we should maybe slither like a snake and belly crawl across this ridge line and then hide under a rock until some of this energy dissipates. Or like we can go for it. I'm like, okay, well, going for it seems like pretty severe consequences if we don't
Yeah.
win. I'm not really interested in playing Frogger on the top of a mountain in Russia. So we start slithering, and like all of a sudden, I get this really hot spot on the back of my shoulder. I'm like, okay, why am I on fire? Why am I on fire? And he took my ice axe from my backpack and threw it because it was starting to get connection. So like
Oh
once one
no.
electric, like all of it starts to get,
Hmm.
and then eventually you would have a lightning bolt because there was enough connection where everything collected to that spot. And then we stomach crawled a little bit further, and I started feeling like hail was hitting me in the corner of my face. I'm like, oh my God, now it's hailing on top of everything else, but I can't see hail. So why do I
Hmm.
feel like I have hail? And he's like, it's connecting again. You got to like move to break the connection. I was like, oh my gosh. So it was just
Wow.
I know. I'm like, what is going on? And we literally had to stay under this rock for like 4 hours doing nothing until you kind of felt like the energy in the air not so buzzy, for lack of better
Hmm.
words. But I literally thought, like, oh, if we're in an electrical storm, you're going to see like lightning bolts. No, you're in an electrical storm because there's so much charge in the air that it can start collecting and then its buddies come together and then you have problems.
Is wild. Like my youngest is very much into science and all, but I've never heard of this electric. That that's freaky in a good way. Like not that I don't know. In my mind, I'm thinking I want to experience it because I like to
No, you
experience
don't.
weird things. But after you're saying, I'm like, probably not. I'm just gonna go with Jen's experience here.
Yeah, use my experience and say, hey, you know what? This crazy girl that I talked to once, only because, like, in that moment, you don't know, is it going to get worse? Is it like going to get better? How long are we going to wait this out? We only have so much daylight before it starts getting really dark because there is a difference between a storm at night and a storm during the day. Like there was just so
Mhm.
many unknowns at that moment. Like I can look back on it and you kind of discount it. But if I bring myself back to the moment before, I'm like, am I going to be texting my family like, hey, guess what? Like things aren't good?
Yeah, no, that is wild. That is wild. So that was in Russia. You said Antarctica was different because of this, probably because of the cold and the snow, or
Yeah, like well, okay, so here like how you get to Antarctica. When you need to climb the mountains, you need to get to central Antarctica. You're not taking a boat to the edges. And so you
Mhm.
take this airplane. Well, there's no runway in Antarctica. And
Right.
so the airplane is landing based on its like depth perception, which is based on its shadow. So
Wow.
if you go to land in Antarctica and there happens to be a cloud that shows up, you're not landing because it
Mhm.
can't gauge its depth perception. And you fly down there in a plane that has enough fuel to go from Punta Arenas, Chile to Antarctica
Mhm.
and back in case it can't land. Right. So that's like one crazy thing. Then when you get there, there's nothing, right?
Mhm.
There's no red, there's no green, there's no purple. So you have this detox of color, you have a
Mhm.
detox of smell. The only thing you see is white ice, maybe some black rock, blue sky, and yellow sun. And you don't have any bugs, you don't have any plants, you don't have anything living. And so it's just this very unique environment that you spend a few weeks there to do the climb and to come back. And we had to wait a couple days because there was a storm, so they couldn't send a plane in to bring us home. But when we landed in Punta Arenas, Chile, which has like a stop sign, okay, and maybe like one hanging traffic light, you land and all of a sudden you don't want the radio on. You don't want like the stoplight. Like you go into the grocery store, everything is so bright and colorful and crazy. You just feel overstimulated. It's really
Mhm.
interesting to have your senses so deprived for so long and then come back to regular life.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? That's interesting because I had a moon geologist on, and she said that they actually would go to Antarctica and would do testing and stuff there to get kind of that same vibe. And I'm just thinking it's almost like a different world because
Yeah,
it's ice, rock, sun, and that's it.
that's
I
it.
mean, you don't have too much else. Maybe a cloud. You might see a penguin if you're lucky, but that's only on the edges.
Yeah, you
That
only see
is
penguins on the
wild.
edges. And so like it's weird because you're the only living thing there. And then I really respect it because they're trying to keep Antarctica as pure as possible. So like they haul out all the bathroom movements, whether you pee or go poop, that is not left there. That is brought back because they don't want to wreck the and contaminate the ice that they're studying.
Mhm. No, I love that. It's actually the one place on Earth that a lot of nations that really weren't going along together all agreed to leave alone. That in
Yes.
itself was kind of a miracle. So
Yes.
like my other question is this because we're talking about like Russia super cold, Antarctica super cold. You did a mountain, I'm assuming somewhere where it was like warmer? I know mountains aren't warm, don't take that wrong, but like what was the terrain and conditions like there? Because I'm assuming it's gonna be different than Antarctica or Russia where you were at.
Right, right. So what's interesting is so Mount Kenya is near the equator, and that's the second highest point in Africa. And so I'm thinking it's going to be a bazillion degrees, right? Because
Hmm.
Africa's hot. And actually, what happens is when you get towards the 17,000 feet, because when you get that high at the equator, that's ice. You don't really get snow because it just goes too cold as the elevation gain. And so you actually had to ice climb a tiny section of this mountain that is at the equator in Mount Kenya, which I thought was a fascinating thing to learn.
Yeah,
When
yeah.
we did Sumantri, which is the second highest point if you can in Indonesia. So if Indonesia is part of Australia, then you want to climb the mountain in Indonesia. If Indonesia is part of Asia, then you wouldn't have to climb the mountain in Indonesia. So Indonesia is one of these like you're climbing just to cover some crazy scientist that says Indonesia is part of Australia instead of Asia.
Mhm.
And that one has like a glacier at the top too. And so you're always in cold weather gear on these mountains at the no matter where they're located.
Just it's funny in my head because again, I would think Africa's hot, that it would actually literally be like I have to climb an ice wall in Africa. Like that just doesn't click in my head.
Not at all, right? It's like it's just such a foreign concept, but it's there.
Yeah. So with all your travels, do you have like a favorite country that you've been to or unique, maybe not favorite, like I love this country more than anything else, but favorite experience?
It's funny. Your experience is becomes your favorite because of who you're climbing with.
Hmm.
And I want like people to think about that because whatever goal you chase, whatever company you build, whatever life you create, it's like truly the people that you're experiencing it with that give it the memory. And you'll know that if you go on vacation to Mexico to the same place and you bring different people, some years it's better than others. And it's because of the people that were there more so than anything else. And so for me, I did Mount Logan, which is the second highest point in North America. Actually, probably the most strenuous climb of all the second summits. But I had my good friend Ryan, I had my good friend Todd. The three of us did it together and we just had a great time.
No, I love that. Well, and I think I agree with you on that because I think about like my wife and I have gone to Hawaii. We've gone to Kauai a bunch of times, but that's just has become our island because we love Kauai. But I've been on other trips with people, and I'm like, yeah, I've been to Bolivia, I've been to Mexico, I've been to Malaysia. Malaysia was cool, but it's who you go with and what you do. Because that I
Yeah.
think it's again at the end of the day, it's the people that impact you. I love
Yep.
that. I think that's key. As we go to land a plane, any parting words of wisdom or a story, anything you want to leave our listeners with?
Yeah, like I think the biggest thing I took away from the entire climbing pursuit and building a business and having 7 kids and enjoying that versus it being a struggle is big mountains take big teams. So if you're going to build a big company, you're going to raise a big family, you're going to do a big pursuit, you need a lot of people to make that happen. And I just remember going to Everest because I climbed Everest to train for K2. And I realized like how many people make Everest possible. You have people that are responsible for oxygen. You have people responsible for food. You have people responsible for tents. You have people responsible for setting the ropes. I have people here taking care of the kids. Like there's so many people involved. So the only thing I need to do is get up and walk. And so then I
Mhm.
have enough energy to get to the top because my brain isn't being zapped by all these other things it's supposed to manage. So if you're feeling frustrated or like down, ask yourself like do you have enough people helping you to climb this mountain? Because if you get to the top and you're exhausted and there's nothing left, it probably really wasn't worth the climb. You didn't bring enough people with you. So anytime I'm feeling that feeling of frustration, setback, like questioning myself, that is the first question I ask. Is there enough people on my team? Because big mountains take big teams.
Mhm. No, I love that. Jenn, thank you for being on. Like she said, big mountains take big teams. If you have a goal, a plan, anything you want to do, find people that can go do it with you because you can move faster, stronger, and better. Until next time, share this episode and don't wait for a major thing to happen before you take action on your dreams because we have one life to live.